resonance going on. So you're like, oh wow, you know. That's why it's really awesome. But of course, people who don't know what's going on, or who aren't clued in, or who could even be there but just aren't sharing the group vibe, are kind of like, what the hell are you doing? You know, you're a bunch of weirdos. You're acting strange. Like, what the hell? What is this? You know. So anyway, so that's an interesting thing. The difference between people on both sides. I guess we'll make this a 20 minute. go to 20. That's good. I'm kind of finding my groove a little bit. That's always something I'm interested in. It's a Bradley cliche, but fascinating topic. Let's see what else. The system. Well, that's another big sort of technical topic, which is the actual game mechanics to a to a role playing game. Been a lot of debate over the years about how important the mechanics are. You know what I mean? Like a game can be really good even if it has poor mechanics because it's mostly about the role playing, or whatever. But my friends and I have evolved a pretty informed idea about that over the years, and that we've gone back and forth and everything, and I've eventually come to conclude that it's like any other really subtle thing in life. It's like role playing game is a two component entity, just like everything is, with two sort of similar but opposed or complementary yin yang type interaction. And with a role playing game, you've got two elements. You've got the hard elements, the yang, the explicit, which is the actual rules, and you've got the yin side, the hidden, the quiet, the soft, which is the art, the feeling, the background information, all the color between the lines, which are the rules effectively. And of course, the rules in the game are always just suggestions. I mean, no matter what it says, they say rule of the game. Well, any rules are just directives. They can be ignored or changed if necessary. And smart games know that and kind of take that into account and maybe mention it, where stupid games might, it's like going, you will obey this rule, absolutely. It says you're right on page 185. Well, fuck that. Go on. It's like, that's reality. Rules are just suggestions in the end. Guidelines. But I've experienced it's like anything. Having a really good rule set helps. It might help an otherwise just okay DM. If it's got some really good suggestions in there, maybe it'll help them perform one level above their average performance. That's great. And if they were using a terrible system, it might put them one below. It's a factor. So rules definitely matter. Because they provide a framework for the interactions that you can't get out of the pure role playing. Games really don't need a lot of it, again, because a game, it's like Ars Magica. Ars Magica is a brilliant RPG because it's got rules. It's got some numbers and some tables and some ways to roll dice and determine things in there. But they are just like the thin, delicious layer of icing on top of the rich, just completely a sumptuous cake that is the substance of the game. And it's a great example of when they do things right, and when it's like the inverse of Rollmaster. Rollmaster has intricate rules for it. It probably has a sub table. It's like if you sprain your elbow, here's the different ways to sprain it, and then let's get a little mini game on which tendons and ligaments, which actually names in their original Latin. But the thing is, that doesn't help you really play a game. It's more of a source book. It's funny. I don't know. Any human object. An object is just some matter that a human is imbued with a certain purpose, energy that can be accessed if you do things in certain ways. Like a chair is a chunk of matter that's been shaped in a way that's designed to be sit in by a human. So a book is a far more sophisticated, or a role-playing game is a far more sophisticated object that is designed to be used as sort of a very very abstract thing. I mean, really, the creation of a fantasy universe and a means of sort of arbitrating, you know, collective dream trips there. Really, I mean, it's a funky, bizarre thing. Really. Anyway, interesting thoughts. Video games. Well, 5 minutes left. I guess I'll do a brief thing on video games. Well, they've come a long way since I was a kid, 30 years ago, some years ago. Used to play them on the 2600, Atari 2600. That was fun. I had one. It was very cool. Those early cartridges, you got a crap load of content on those. You got, you know, the Army one had like, well, it's just variations on the basic tanks theme, but it was fun, and it had tons of stuff. Had the original Space Invaders, had like 1,500 variations on that. Invisible Invaders, all kinds of crazy stuff. I don't feel like enumerating that though. Gaming. Well, on a similar angle to my previous chatting about RPGs, it's another topic in video games, which is, you know, game mechanics and kind of, you know, in their case, it's more about the graphics and just sort of eye candy versus game content. It's, you know, kind of the same thing, but shaped differently because you can't really role play in video games. They're more of a simulation. They come down more on the simulation side, you know, where RPGs come down more on the art side because they're basically acting, which is an interesting way to put it. I mean, any game is going to have its, basically, you can identify it by its specific amount of simulation versus art. You know, RPGs, much more art, much less simulation, just by, you know, default nature, because they're basically acting. Video games, much more on the simulation side, though of course they have their artistic angle as well, but they are much more on the simulation side because they literally are a simulation. They have an absolutely rigid component in that they have to be a working game program, you know, that does not glitch on you. So they have to have a, you know, really, really tight rules essentially. So the art has to be worked in there much more. You have a lot less room to work with, basically. Though, despite that, well, there you go. There's a nice cliche way to fill off the last 2 minutes here. The recent Roger Ebert, who is a great movie reviewer, and, you know, has good opinions, and he's a really good writer too, actually. But he's not right about everything. He's one of those emotional people that if he knows he is right, then basically his logic and sense just fly out the window, and all of a sudden he just writes drivel just like anybody else. But he's saying video games are not art, and they can never be art. Actually, that's one huge thread I was going to do. I was going to comment on the FARC thread or something. Now, I've got a bunch of things like that, large threads, and I'm going to comment on them and maybe do this, you know, it could take like an hour. Probably bore the shit out of just about everybody, but no, I think I will eventually do that. You know, I should probably do those while I'm injured. I hurt my back a bit and can't really do anything physical, so not that I ever do anything physical if I don't have to, but whatever. 1 minute to go. So yes, video games are definitely potentially art. In fact, they are art. I mean, by definition, it's like, I mean, they're a human construct that's made for purposes of expression. That is art. I mean, some people say, "Oh, that doesn't have enough poetry in it," but no, it is. It's any means of expression. If you're attempting to express something, because we're talking about functionality. A chair is made to be sat in. You know, a knife is meant to cut things. They're tools. If I paint a picture, what am I trying to do? Well, a number of things, but one over any, I'm basically, this is an expression. It's not meant to do anything in particular. It's meant to have an effect on the human mind. You're expressing energy, so it is an awareness. So that's art. All right, Bradley out.